Okay. Welcome, everyone, to another evening, well, an evening instead of a Sunday of when Black women gather. We just finished watching a very emotional film about domestic violence. Selena Kuhn, who is one of our guests tonight, filmed a documentary at the request of the family about the victimhood of China Cullen. So we're going to talk to Miss Kuhn and Serena MacBello is also here. We're going to talk to her. So welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for agreeing to come do this conversation with us.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
I don't know. I'm feeling really heavy after watching that. So let me
Mhm.
just, so I'm Helen Higginbotham, for those of you who don't know. And very quickly, I'll tell you a little bit about both of the ladies, and then we'll just go into discussion. Selena Kuhn I live in Florida, and I met Selena at a Christmas party just a few weeks ago. And she told me about this film she had done and wanted to know if, in fact, she could come on and show it to the ladies in this group. And I said, absolutely, because we had not touched on the subject of domestic violence, which is a serious issue in our community, in all communities, but specifically in the Black community. So I wanted us to talk about it. Selena is a native of Riviera Beach here in Florida. She's been doing documentaries for 20 years. She is inspired, her inspiration for doing documentaries is to tell the truth as a matter of self-expression. And like I said, she did this film, and she's going to talk a little bit, and she'll tell us more about herself. But I just wanted to give you an overall introduction to her. And then Serena MacBello, thank you, Serena, for agreeing to come on and talk to us. Serena is an attorney of more than 25 years. She is has works a lot with domestic violence clients. She's bilingual in Spanish and English, so that must be very helpful in the work that she does. She's a graduate of Penn State undergrad and Temple Law School. And where she was who's who um, for 2 of the years, who's who in American law students for 2 of the years that she was there. She successfully represents clients at Camden Regional Legal Services regarding matters of Social Security, disability, public benefits, unemployment, and obviously domestic violence. She worked for DIFUS. For those of you who are from New Jersey, they don't even call it DIFUS anymore, Division of Youth and Family Services. She represented DIFUS matters for 5 years. And are you currently at South Jersey Legal Services?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I play flute.
you're a flautist? Is
Mhm.
that how you say
Sing.
it?
Yeah, I
Flautist?
play the flute.
That's impressive. I can't play anything. And I'm sure the Deltas on this call will want to know that she is a member of DST. So let's just start talking about the film. And ladies who are on the call, I don't know how we want to do this. I mean, I don't know. I know for me that was really hard to watch. And I have a lot of questions. So those of you who are on the call, please, jump in and engage us in conversation. But Selena, let's start with you. Talk to me about the film and how you came to do the film, and what were the aha moments for you in putting the film together.
China's mom reached out to me and she asked that I do this film, this documentary. Um, Doing interviews for some years, I didn't feel that I could do it. I didn't know that I could do it, but I just felt that it had to be done. Um, I went through a lot of emotions, just putting this together. Um, there are many times that I cried. But I just knew that I had to get through it. And I would say one of the aha moments for me was when people experienced this film, they came out for the first time. They came out to tell their story for the first time. So I think that, I'd like to think that they started their healing journey, just seeing this film. And this film is heavy. This film is extremely heavy. And China's mom said as long as it saves at least one life, she's happy about it, extremely happy about that. So um, I'm happy that I could put this together for her and her family. So
How did she hear about you to know to ask you to do the film?
I interviewed her cousin. Her cousin is a member of that is cinematic music group. He's an artist and he's from Jacksonville. China, she's from Jacksonville, so he's from Jacksonville also. And she saw that interview and she asked him, "Hey, who did your interview?" And he gave her the information. She reached out to me via Instagram and I get the messages all the time. "Hey, could you do a video for me? Could you do this? Could you?" I didn't think, that we were going to move past that, but we actually did, and I'm extremely happy that we did.
Yeah. Uh, Serena, did you get to see most of the film? So is
I
that
did. I did.
yeah. And her
And my heart
story
is
is
heavy.
yeah, yeah, it was really something. Her story is typical or
Yeah, unfortunately, what I've seen is that I don't know if you've all heard about this cycle of abuse, but it sounds like a lot of people are stuck in this cycle of abuse and they don't realize it. The clients that I've seen, and I was just trying to just do some numbers just to see where I stand with everything, focusing on women of color. And I've identified just a few cases that I remember hearing of. Now, in my office in Mount Holly, I'm the only Black woman attorney, and there's only one brother. So there's just two of us in the Mount Holly office. So in our office, I've seen about maybe 7 women of color. We don't accept every single case for representation. A lot of it depends on the proofs that they have. A lot of the clients I've seen are stuck in the cycle of abuse. And I know that we talked about this is we're women of color, but if I may, I only got permission from one of my clients who's stuck in this cycle. And I'd like to just share, she gave me permission to share her picture with you all, because I just want you to see a picture of the client I represented. And I want to share this with you because the cycle of abuse, I won her case for her. Just as a side note, I like to win cases. I win cases for my clients, okay? With these cases, I don't like to have to win because it means there's pictures. It means that there's black eyes. It means that there's images of bruises. It means that most of our clients are stuck in this cycle of abuse. Like the client I'm going to show you her picture of, I won her FRO for her in February of 2024.
tell people what
Guess
an
what? She
FRO.
dropped it.
So
Final
tell
restraining
people
order.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry. In New Jersey, okay, you can have a temporary, you apply for a temporary restraining order if you feel like you're threatened, any kind of the 18 enumerated acts of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not only physical, it could be coercive control, it could be harassment, it could be stalking. And this particular boyfriend of hers punched black and blue eyes. He shot her with a Nerf machine gun, the kind that looks like a real gun. He shot her with a Nerf machine gun in her head and her private parts. And the cycle, I mean, the system, it's bigger than we realize it, because you have the injustice system where you have judges that have biases. So this was a Caucasian judge. My client was Caucasian, but the judge says, "Oh, so you hit with soft projectiles." So I'm like, on directing my client, I'm like, "So how many times did he hit you with this machine gun, with these bullets?" And she's testifying that he shot me 15 times in the head, in my private areas, all over, bruises all over her face, all over her body. But this judge said, "You were hit with soft projectiles." That's the arena that we're in. So the fight is bigger than that. So if I may, I just want to show you the picture of domestic violence, what I see as a domestic violence attorney. Is that okay? Just to show you her picture?
Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
Of her black eyes? Okay. Share screen.
Sam, before you came on, I think all of us know somebody who's been affected by domestic violence, either ourselves or loved ones or colleagues at work,
Okay.
friends. You know, it's a real issue.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think this is the one. That's her mouth. If you hit her mouth, face, that's one picture. This is the other picture.
The judge excuses
I just
this
wanted
as
you to
assault.
you see her baby, right? She has two little ones. That's her baby there. So this, so you have a picture of what we're seeing. This is an example of domestic violence. It's not us, but I just wanted you to see that because that's an example of what we're dealing with when we're talking about. Now how do I get back to my okay? We're talking about representing these clients. Oh, stop share. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
When we talk about representing these clients, so one of the
Selena, with China, I was anybody like I was just dying over here with that dispatcher, but it looks like they have been to court several times, and her family did not know, and I'm still not clear on how the boyfriend died.
So her best friend was there with her that night. So when the child's father shot China, I guess he retaliated. I'm not sure if it was deemed self-defense or what, but he didn't serve time. The best friend shot the father, Christopher.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Is the best
And she
friend.
was protective. Somebody even put it in the chat that she was protective of him.
You said what? Say that again.
She seemed to be protective of that it was her, she didn't want people involved because it was her child's father. Like she never told her father. She didn't
She
want
didn't
her
tell
new.
anybody. Yeah.
usually they do. If that's like the cycle of abuse, they like
Mhm.
they say, well, if he just gets counseling, if he just goes to domestic violence, if he goes to something, anger management, they're focusing more on sometimes on what they can do to fix him and what will help him. That could have been something that was prevalent in that case, but yeah.
Wow.
Helen, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How do we break the cycle of abuse as mothers? Because I have a daughter, and I said, if he hits you one time, do not wait for a second time. I didn't tell her to kill him, but I said, you need to get out of that situation or I will kill him. And then I'm going to come back and kill you. I was just fooling with her, but I don't understand why some people will say, well, couldn't her family help her more? Or why did she not move? Or what? I mean, there's so many questions that go unanswered when it comes to domestic violence. But as mothers, I think we just have to tell our daughters, don't try. Don't try it over and over and over. Just the one time you're out. Because if there's one time, there's going to be a second time. And don't wait for it.
That's right. You're right about that. I think if there's any way to give them counseling or to refer them to a counselor who's trained in that area is the best way to do it. Because when like my managing attorney, we sat down with the client I sent you a picture of, and she said, I just want to give him a chance. He said, my managing attorney said, look, he only gets one chance to kill you. You give him another chance. Is that the chance you're going to give him to kill you? Just one chance. You got to wait 2 times. But the third time you give him, is that the chance you want to give him? So I think the answer may be to give them the links that they need and the information that they need to get the help that they might be able to get from these counselors. I have about another client that I have. One of the things I noticed is that in our culture, a lot of times we want to keep private things private. But that's something else. But in this case, this is really deep. I like to win cases. I told you that. And I was ready to win my case for my client. I had pictures of her eyes and everything ready to go. She said, Serena, I can't go forward. Like, why not? We got this. Let's go over your testimony again. What's wrong? We got this. She's like, he's my only source of income. I've got 2 babies here. What am I going to do? In New Jersey, the final restraining orders are permanent. Unlike other states, they kind of expire. New Jersey, it's permanent, and it can affect someone if they have a professional license. My client was depending on this man. He had a professional license. She said, if this final restraining order, if I win it, I lose, because what am I going to do? I'm going to be homeless. So I had to not go forward with that, but I made sure that I connected her with the counselors so that she can develop a plan, so she can have a safety plan. And also in New Jersey, we have something called civil restraints. There's no police protection with that at all. However, they're agreeing to stay away from each other. But I just connected her with the domestic violence counselors and said, look, can you get a plan together for her so she has a safety plan so that she can get whatever training she needs so that in a few years she can have an exit plan to kind of build things up. But sometimes it's like that, and you can't do what your client they don't want you to do, what they can't have, what you can't do. So that's something else we deal with.
Miss Serena, so we kind of know what physical abuse looks like in domestic violence, but what does emotional abuse looks like or sound like?
There's something that's called coercive control. A lot of my clients will say that they're demeaning them, they're yelling at them, screaming at them, belittling them. A lot of times they'll cut off financial sources for them. One of the clients said that he cut off the internet, so she knew she worked from home, so he disconnected the internet. There's things like that. A lot of it's basically yelling and screaming, belittling and demeaning, but then also coercive control, where they're doing things just so they know you're going to react in a certain way. That's something else that they do. Like, this guy is in my client's head. Even now, she's still like, well, if I do this, what is he going to do? I'm like, doesn't matter what he's going to do. Listen, this girl was locked up on Martin Luther King holiday because she dropped the final restraining order, listening to him. She's stuck in the cycle. She dropped it. He convinced her to drop it. Then he turns around and
do
files
that.
against her.
I thought once the cops were called, the new laws took it out of the hands of the victim because of that, because the cops were coming out, putting their lives on the line. And we always think of the victim as women. It's not always women. So the victim would then drop the charges. So I thought that once the cops became involved, that it was no longer up to the parties. That's not so.
In New Jersey.
Well, that's what I was trained in New Jersey.
I won it for her in February 2024. He convinced her to drop it in December. She dropped it on a Friday. On that following Monday, he filed against her in a different county. And also in New Jersey, which is weird, is that it protects the person who filed. So he filed against her based on all these lies. And then he starts texting her saying, oh, well, let's talk about the kids. Can I see the kids? She responds to him, and she violated that restraining order. She gets locked up. She's locked up in jail on Martin Luther King holiday, calling me, and I'm on a holiday trying to find her somebody to represent her to get her out of jail the next day. New Jersey is just backwards like that. It protects the person who files. They can reach out to the other person, but if that person responds, they can violate.
Knowing your worth as a victim, is that important?
As a victim, knowing your worth.
Is that important?
Yeah, I think that's very important. But I think also that gets into, I think we need to make sure that women are protected in the counseling that they need, because a lot of times that's broken down by their controller, and they're focusing on him or her. I do have two male domestic violence clients, but one was Black. This is another interesting one. Listen to this. I had a Black domestic violence client male. And it's interesting because they were from Sierra Leone. All right. Now this brings into the whole culture part, because I noticed that in Sierra Leone, they want to keep everything, that heritage, they want to keep everything private. They don't want anything to do with the court system. So my client was the man, but I'm looking at the wife who filed against him, and she is sitting there like she is so intimidated. But I was kind of struggling because my client was the man. I had to represent the client, the male, but I'm looking at the woman, and she's obviously, she's fearful of this man. So I know something must have happened, but that wasn't my role. My client was the man. So that's getting into the culture of, of that, where you want to keep it out of the courts and keep it private, that kind of a thing. So I've seen that too. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I think it's very important that women are empowered with the counseling that they need. And I have some, I'm going to send you all some links as well. And I wanted to show you this too. Do you know about this? Did you know about that sign?
No, go ahead. What does
Yes,
that mean?
I've heard about it. I've
Okay.
seen it.
You can do this if someone is like, oh, hey girl, how you doing? Oh my gosh. Oh, for real? Oh, wow. Yeah. Can you? Oh my God. I don't believe that. You can do that when you don't, nobody will know what you're doing. It's a symbol of like you need help. You can do that if someone is in your area and they know your location and they need help. You can do that, and they're supposed to send help to you. 911. That's important too.
Wow.
So if you see that, that's what it means.
Thank you.
But I'll share the links that I have for information about domestic violence and everything. But I mean, I think the answer to that is making sure that we get our young girls, and we do this soon. We have to do it younger, when they're like young, before they get to teenage, because if there's a way to let them know, to empower them, that they are what they're worth, let them know what they're worth and they're valued. And I think that would be the best thing to do, and get them younger before they get to the teenage years. Because there are statistics about teenagers as well.
What was Selena? Their names are Selena and Serena, y'all. I didn't do that on purpose. Selena. What was the deal with this guy? His name, I noticed that his name was Christopher. I think I picked that up.
Yes.
But was he, he's living with another woman and he's across town of bothering her. What was his story? Do you know if he was abused, or did you even bother?
Yeah, he watched his mom get abused coming up. Yeah.
So it's a cycle.
Yeah, I don't know his the deep end of his story, but he definitely witnessed that coming up.
Was he abusing the other woman or just
I'm not sure.
China?
I'm not
Okay.
sure. We didn't really talk about him.
I know. Yeah.
Because I don't think that made her feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
I get it. I get it. Yeah, I was just curious. She and the father, her father they were so emotional. So it was hard to even see the father break down, feeling like he couldn't be there for his daughter, but she didn't share. So can anybody talk? Diane, you had a question? I saw you earlier. Diane, did you have a question?
Basically, I had a comment.
Go ahead.
Basically, I had a comment. And it was relative to what can mothers do. And generally, I'm not an expert in domestic violence. I have had some exposure to it professionally. But basically, it's important for mothers to, as Selena said, help their daughters or help their children to know their worth. That's one thing. And also, what was shown as far as, the pictures of the young lady, that's probably well into the cycle of the domestic violence, because it starts with comments. It starts with criticisms. It starts with maybe even, I think somebody said yelling, and it escalates. If the criticisms start and it's not nipped in the bud, then it escalates to something else, to more verbal abuse. So it's important that we teach our children, girls and boys, that they don't have to put up with that kind of abuse. Because I used to work with juveniles, and I would tell my parents, my mothers in particular, that they needed to teach their boys how to take care of themselves, because sometimes a boy or a man would stay in a relationship because they don't know how to take care of themselves. They're not living with mommy anymore, who used to do everything for them, and they don't know how to take care of themselves. So they stay in these relationships because they can't take care of themselves. Bottom line is, we need to start early and helping our kids to develop a healthy sense of themselves and their worth. And that's just one avenue for dealing with the domestic violence. And it's not a panacea, but it's one thing that can be done.
Yeah. I mean, this woman, China even had bought her own gun, and it looks like he took the gun away from her and shot her with her own gun. Robin, you had a
Exactly.
question, Miss Thorpe?
No, just a comment, a piggyback on the comment about, you got to start early. And I think a lot, honestly, because I am an attorney in DC, and I deal with abuse and neglect cases. I represent parents, represent kids, and I represent caregivers when they adopt a kid. A lot of what I see is that the parents don't necessarily know how to be the example, don't understand that they have to be the example they set. You can't sit there and let your daughter and your son see you in abusive relationships and then want to turn around and then tell them about their work. You have to make sure that the air they breathe are non-toxic relationships, so that when they sense that is, you know what I mean, like their sense of normal has to be normal, so that by the time a guy hits you one time, it's too late. Your picker is off. Because these predators give the energy. If you can feel it, they're going to do something to let you know that they have no problem dehumanizing a woman. It's going to be
I
a
wonder
look.
how they choose their victim. I wonder
Yes,
what's the
yes.
woman,
And
I keep
so
saying
we
woman,
have to
what's
be
the
the
victim given
mothers.
off?
Yeah. So as mothers, we have to make sure that they know that energy is not to be accepted.
That's true. I'd have to agree with that. Something else. Well, it answers the question. That's fine. That's for everyone. That's just something I saw on TV. If you see that, it's just something you can do if you're in danger without alerting the abuser that you're signaling. It's just any and everybody can use that. You can share that with others as well. Something I tell my clients too is that the protection from abuse is only a piece of paper. So they always have to be aware of their surroundings at all times. I tell them to download apps that share their location. One of them is Life 360, different with your cell phones as well, Apple or whatever, you can share your location so that people know where you are. But I agree with the sister who just spoke about being an example, because you do have to.
Miss Helen, excuse me, to answer your question, I believe that they choose women that are vulnerable, that are weak, that are nice, and maybe you can even chime in on this, Miss Serena. And we also have questions in the comment section, I believe. But
We do.
the type of women that these guys choose, or the type of men that these women choose.
But when they described this young lady, nobody
She was
described her
aggressive.
as being
No,
weak.
no, she was an aggressor, and usually she was a fighter, and she fights for her life to the end. So it's interesting as I listen to that, I wonder what happened that made her less aggressive with him, or I don't know. And
Maybe
we
it
will
was
never.
love. Maybe it
That's a
was
great
love.
question. maybe.
Well, it also sounded as if she was very petite and he was much bigger. So it's quite possible that he overpowered her
Mhm.
Right.
because
this-
the mother did say that she was 5'1", 120 something pounds, and he was over 6 feet.
Right. She did say that. She did say that.
Two questions for Miss Serena. One, can a judge order the abuser to take anger management classes and therapy? Can that be part of like a restraining order, or is a restraining order just saying stay away? And then the
They
second
have done
question,
that. I have had judges do that as well. That's
Okay.
based on after the judge hears all the facts and he grants the final restraining order. They do say, okay, anger management classes. If something else is identified, like alcohol anonymous, substance abuse testing, all those things can be listed in the final restraining order. To answer the question about emotional abuse, but I'm unfortunately when it comes to a court of law, you have to be able to prove everything. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients, we can't represent every single case. One of my clients said that she was raped, but in further interviewing her, she tells me that, oh, he wasn't as loving as before, but he was more forceful. And I'm getting, say, so what happened? Explain what happened. Well, he grabbed me and he threw me on the bed. So I said, well, is that normally how you engage with each other, when you're having sexual relations? So she's like, yeah, but it wasn't like before. So I'm like, okay, that's indicating that they have a routine of having like violent sexual interactions. So it's going to come down to her word against his word. And it's just 1% difference as to what the judge believes by preponderance of the evidence, just 51%, not like reasonable doubt. We're not talking about beyond a reasonable doubt, Your Honor. It's only 51%, 1% more. If he comes into court and says, oh, we always did it this way. She loved it. She never said stop. She never said anything like that. If the judge believes that, you're going to lose. So it's not only what you say, you have to be able to prove it. So the other client I have where the Jamaican client I had, we won that one. And her 80-year-old mother was her witness. To prepare her, I had to prepare her 80-year-old mother that she's going to be cross-examined by this attorney. So I'm saying you have to think about this. Do you really want to be on the stand and have your mother testify about this? Because you have to relive everything all over again. Thankfully, the other side didn't have an attorney. So I got to put my client's testimony on and her mother's testimony. So we won that one. But it all comes down to what you can prove in a court of law. So emotional abuse, it depends on what you're saying he did. How did he emotionally abuse you? And it goes by what the statute says. You have to prove it. So if you have screenshots, if you have text messages of what he said to you, if you have audio recordings of what he did to you, those kinds of things, as long as you can prove it, then yes. But if he comes to the other side is going to come to court and say their side of the story. It's going to come down to what the judge believes. Now, this other client I had, I cross-examined the guy. This another client. She was Caucasian. He strangled her. She had marks on her neck and everything. So I just asked him one question on cross-examination. I said, you strangled my client, correct? And he said, well, no, I just gave her a really strong hug and laughed. Well, the judge made a credibility determination that he was lying. And he basically came down on that guy. It depends on what you can prove in court and who the judge is and things like that. So you can try to present it and see what happens, but it just all going to depend on what the judge believes and how strong the evidence is.
We have two people with questions, and then we need to get to the questions in the chat. Sheridan, did you still have a question? You had your hand up. And Nikki. Sheridan, are you still here?
I'm here. I come from a culture of that. I'm Caribbean, and I grew up seeing a lot of that abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And as an adult, I look back and I wonder how much of that contribute. Domestic violence is a complicated issue. It runs all through my family. But I wonder how much of that is just hitting. Hitting is so normalized in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it is an African American culture too, but I can only speak about the Caribbean culture. Hitting children, hitting is seen as normal. And I wonder how much of that contributes to that as well. I don't know, but I think we have to wrestle with that as a culture. Because, you know, I have my brother used to hit his wife. So many people with abuse and demean, and and you see it coming. And how do we, and all of us, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but we too have been attempted to be, you have to stop that thing right away. So you will not speak to me that way. If you speak to me, and we have to be prepared to walk, because once you say I'm going to do it and you don't do it. I had a relationship where someone cursed at me, and I told him, if you say that to me again, I am going to walk away. You don't have to leave, I'll leave. It was 6 years later. He did it again. I walked.
Wow.
He thought I was crazy. He's like, you're just gonna walk because I cursed at you? I'm like, yeah. Because I knew the next thing would not be a curse.
That's true.
We have to be able to say what we mean and be able to walk away. And it's not always easy. And I saw a young lady with 3 children. It's not always easy.
She's
It's
only
sometimes
20,
very, very
China was
difficult.
only 24. China was 24 with
So
3 children.
I'm just saying, I think pardon? Yeah, we have to walk, we have to be able to have these serious conversations with our children, very young, hitting boys, hitting girls, girls hitting boys. Hitting has to stop in our culture. Has to stop. Because then it just goes into, well, I can hit you and be in power, and then when I become your boyfriend, I can talk to you this way. And mothers and parents who degrade their children verbally, and caregivers. So when you hear it, you see it, you grow up with it, it's just become normalized in a relationship. So we have to cut this stuff out in our own lives early.
That's true. Can I share something else with you? I wanted to share something that kind of summarizes and kind of highlights some of the areas that I think we as a people face when it comes to domestic violence. I just have to pull another slide up for you to see it.
I want us to talk about too. There were comments in the chat about the ambulance taking so long. The dispatcher, that guy was driving me crazy. And somebody put in the chats, you have to be white to get service. So that was bothersome. And they kept saying, somebody said they're just asking. I think it was Danielle. Somebody put in the chats, like, they're just asking what is your race. They never say, are you fat? Are you tall? They don't ask you anything else. It's a black, white, or Hispanic person, and what are they wearing? Like, what do they look like? Are they heavy set? Are they tall? Are they short? Like, what are we looking for? So, and we know that Black women who go into court with these issues have a different experience than does a white woman. Although I'm surprised to hear that the judge in the case that you just shared, it's a white woman, and he's saying, it's just a little Nerf ball, you'll be okay. That's surprising, because that sounds like something they would say to a Black woman. So let's show what you have to show. And Sheridan, thank you. And Nikki, as soon as Serena finishes, we'll come to your question. Go ahead, Serena. But we also need to not sleep on the notion that this crosses all lines, y'all. Gender, socioeconomic, rich women who you think got it going on. Some of them are being abused just as much as, the woman in the trailer park or in the projects or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, we just, it affects all of us. And we don't talk about it as a community, which Sheridan just kind of touched on. We cover up, we cover up for, Uncle so-and-so who has been beating Aunt Bessie, all her. Like, I had an uncle who I adored, but he was an abuser. He beat his wife all the time. And so yeah, you just never know. And we can never say what we will or will not do. You don't know till you're in it.
Sure.
That's what I wanted to share with you. This is from Harmony House TV and Black Indigenous People of Color. And it says, BIPOC individuals face unique challenges when it comes to reporting domestic violence and when seeking support services. These may include a fear of reporting the abuse due to distrust of law enforcement, the justice system, and social systems, cultural or religious views, we just talked about that keep them in a relationship, lack of service providers who look like them, speak their language, understand their unique cultural experience, have experienced racism that keeps them from speaking out, pressure from their community to keep family matters private. And then Black women who experience domestic violence at high rates are more likely to be criminalized by the system and are routinely arrested when trying to defend themselves against the abusive partner. They're also more likely than others to die at the hands of their abuser, nearly 3 times the rate of white women. And I wanted to share that as another factor because that's true. We talk about, I'll get out of here again. We talk about, stop sharing. Am I sharing still or no?
You are, but I'll stop it for you.
Okay. I have a question. I don't know how long it took the police to arrive at that location for the video we saw for the case we just talked about. And I'm wondering
I believe she said 45 minutes to an hour.
Action against them for the delay. And the other
And they're right down the street. Well, she said the fire station was right down the street.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, the guy, can anybody want to talk to the the dispatcher was driving me crazy. Like,
what was driving you
Yeah.
crazy about it?
That's what I'm saying.
Because he kept asking the same questions, like what are you wearing? And even the young lady on the phone, she said, "Stop asking me the same questions."
Right.
It was quite annoying for me. But that was just I was just over here. I could feel my blood pressure rising as he was. You didn't find that wasn't your experience, Selena?
Yeah, just the many questions. It's just like send somebody,
Yeah.
Right, just send somebody.
They're
Like
telling you that something
she
is
told you
happening.
there's a
Send
fight
somebody.
happening. And then you're like, okay, so they've been there 30. I wonder if the dispatcher, when he gets the call, if they see like we've been there 30 times before, like whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they're seeing. So anyway, Nikki, what was your question, babe? Thank you, Sheridan.
Welcome.
I just wanted to say, so my background is in working with victims of domestic violence, rape.
Oh.
I was a therapist for this group of women. I no longer practice with that group anymore. I'm going to speak to the last thing that you said about when the police gets on the phone, what do they see? So as soon as they get on the telephone, they know how many times they've been to that address. They have all of that information. It does get dispatched out, and they do have someone on the way. Look, I'm just going to try to build a picture of it, not saying that I'm for any group and that I have any understanding and that I agree. I'm just saying what my experience was as a therapist. So many times the police are already aware of who's in the house, who the players are, because they've been to so many calls. They said that they've been to 30 calls in the past at that place. The thing about it is that they go, they try to enforce. Maybe sometimes the person that calls does enforce and have them move forward. But the truth of the matter is, by the time it gets to court and he or she has made several calls to the victim, I love you, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again, baby, I didn't mean it, I'm going to get out and the person buys into that. So when it gets to the court case and the only witness is the victim, and the victim says, oh, no, I don't want to press charges. I mean, everything's okay. Or, I changed my mind. Or it is part of the cycle. And after a while, unfortunately, it's like, I'm from Panama, so I try to use American expressions, but sometimes they don't come out right. But isn't it like the boy who cried wolf? or something. Like you cry wolf so many times that the police begin to get numb to your cry. So that one cry where when it could be real, they say, oh, this is not going to be any different than the 30 times we know. They get into going to go there and charges going to be dropped. And unfortunately, they get numb to it. I wanted to say something to what Selena said, that they prey on weak, that it doesn't matter. Women and people that are attorneys, that are nurses, that are in professions that you would, judges, are even going home and being abused, because what you see when it gets to the physical violence, that has only, I mean, there's been abuse and violence for longer than that. The final outcome is what you see physically, because it's about control. It's all about the person controlling. And why do women make it happen? Why do men make it happen? It's hard to say. You don't know what's behind it. But you can say to anyone, a child, anyone, you can say whatever you want to say. But just like the woman that spoke before that says, we don't learn by what we hear, we learn by what we see. And so as a child growing up, if you see somebody getting popped or smacked or this or that, women say a lot, well, I don't need a man. And men say, well, I don't need a woman. But if you have children, they're the ones that need that sex, because men feed into a female's value, and mommies feed into a boy's respect for women. She's his first love. And sometimes there's a theory in psychology that if there's we go through different phases, and if there's one phase of your life that wasn't fulfilled and it was emptied or damaged, you'll continue to grow, but that part doesn't go away. Eventually it needs to be fulfilled. And so children spend their lives looking for someone to love them or to validate them, and so they have fear of walking away or moving away from the situation. They don't have any place to go, they don't have any money, but there are many houses and places that they can go. Normal people don't know about them, but you could be living next to a domestic violence, not a domestic, a place where they put women to save them and to help them. So a safe house, right. But, unfortunately with these places, I don't call them safe houses, but unfortunately with these places, when he comes saying, baby, let me come and get you. I'll take you home. I'm so sorry. They let them come to the safe house, if you want to call that, quote unquote. And then the other women become vulnerable, and that place is no longer a safe place. Right. So I just wanted to touch on some of the things that were said, because I've worked intimately and I got out of that field because from my personal experience, there was no reward on either side, because you can work with someone and work with someone and work with someone, but if that place has not been fulfilled, work with, and is damaged, somehow or some way that perpetrator has found it, they will work on it, and they will be back to do it again.
That's true. That's true. Thank you, Nikki.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's true. Thank you for sharing that from your perspective.
I'm glad you shared that. It crosses all professional, socioeconomic class lines. You just never know. You don't know what's going on. I remember when we were kids, my mother had, I was telling Serena this the other day. My mother had a girlfriend. They have been friends since they were teenagers. They grew up together and they're grown. They both got kids and family. And there it was in the newspaper one day that her girlfriend had been stabbed 50 some times and was in the hospital fighting to save her life. And as close as they were, my mother never knew that this was happening in her marriage. And I remember we were kids. I'm probably 12, 13, somewhere, but not even a teenager yet, I don't think. And I remember mommy sitting us down and saying, if you're in a relationship and this is what's happening to you, don't ever keep it to yourself. Let somebody know what was happening, because everybody was just shocked that this woman was fighting for her life like that. And, and she almost died. I mean, I remember it was 50 some times she had been stabbed, but she survived. And he went to jail, not for very long, because, she's a Black woman. And, even in the story with China, I mean, he doesn't stay in jail very long either. And it seems like as long as he had on the ankle bracelet, he was okay. But as soon as he got that ankle bracelet off, there he was back at her house. Selena, do you know if he had other children in addition to the child that he had with China?
I
Because
don't
I'm
think
just
so.
trying to figure out why he's so obsessed with her, or was he this way with all of his baby mothers, babies,
I don't think
moms, or
so.
what have
I think that was his first child.
Well,
That
that's
was
a
the second.
sign.
He controlled her.
That's a sign of stalking behavior as well. I mean, let's be very clear. There's a line there. There's stalker behavior, and then there's abuser behavior. And just because somebody's abuser doesn't mean that he's a stalker, right? But that was stalking behavior right there when he kept going to her, kept going to her. Something in him needed to be fed, needed to be in control. That's his addictive behavior that made him.
Because he has a new girlfriend. It's like, why are you? Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not supposed to make sense. That much I understand. To
Right.
the
He's still
person on the
controlling
outside,
her.
yeah,
Right, but
right,
we don't know whether or not the abuse started with her. Abuse is an
really.
an interesting thing in that, someone would say, "Oh, are you really going to wear that again today?" Mm. I don't know, that lipstick, you know what? Put on, I like red lipstick versus pink lip. It's the little nuances where it starts. And then it gets bigger and bigger. So the girlfriend could have already been experiencing verbal abuse. It's not always physical. So, verbal abuse hurts more than
Yeah, yeah,
physical abuse
for sure.
because it's completely chipping. I remember my client was a physician, and her child kept acting out at school. The child kept fighting and this and that. And she was taking the child to different therapists, different people, because the child didn't want to open up. And so at one point, I started doing play therapy with the child. And somehow or another, the way that she placed the pieces of the puzzle, I mean, of the little people, she and I were on one side, and the mother, who was the physician, was on one side, and the father was on the other side, but the mother was sitting in a chair. And it didn't make sense to me. We were over here, the mother's sitting in the chair, and the father's over there. So after a lot of work with her, the scenario was that she and I were watching her father set her mother's hair on fire.
Oh my gosh.
And he said to the little girl, "This is what happens when little girls don't behave," and lit the lighter and lit her hair on fire. So it could be going on in different ways, and it can come out in different ways. That
Right,
was the final. That was
right.
extreme, to have somebody get their head burned, their hair burned. But in the home, the little girl was listening to things over and over and over and over, and it was building and building and building. And her father is her first love. So that became normal behavior for her, right? That's normal behavior. So she
True.
grows up seeing that as, well, this is how men behave towards women.
We have to be careful what we model. And as Sheridan said, even we Black people, I think all cultures, we still spank, beat, whoop our children. And does that lead for some kids to become, violent in their later years? Um, what was the thing with purple at her funeral, Selena? Do you know? Was there anything
Now,
special
was that her
about that?
favorite color? But that's the color of domestic violence.
Domestic
Domestic violence
violence.
awareness.
That's what I thought. I wondered. Yeah, yeah.
It's in
Thank you,
October,
Miss Nikki.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah.
One
What
other thing
month
I
is
want
it?
to tell you, that this means I need help. That's what
Oh,
the symbol
that's
that
the
Serena was,
sign.
Oh,
right,
The
yeah.
that's
sign
the
is
sign, I need help.
So I need help.
So not you have to put your fingers together because that has a different meaning. So this
Oh,
is I need help,
Okay.
right?
I just knew that was a sign. So thank you for thank you.
No worries, no worries.
Mhm.
okay.
Well,
Good to know.
that's something that should go out or be on posters, especially since we have Women's History Month coming up, because if I saw somebody doing that across the street at the park walking with someone, I would have no clue. I would think that the person was deaf.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's
True.
good because you don't have to
Sure.
say anything. They can just do that and you know that they need help. So if the
Right.
I think
abuser's right behind you and doesn't see you, you can get that
Mm,
signal out, you know?
We have
Um,
questions
yeah.
in the comments.
Excuse me, if I may, very briefly, and Nikki, I sent you a message privately. Please take a look at it. Just wanted to put that out there.
Who's saying it,
Okay.
please? I didn't.
And see, I sent you a message.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Erica, what's your question?
Hi,
Erica?
I had, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
I had two comments. One was also, and thank you for putting this together. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
am a friend of two of my close friends that are dealing with levels of domestic violence right now currently. So this was very timely. Um, one of the things I noticed, somebody else, I think someone had put it in the chat when they were asking about the race of the person. They were only saying black, white, and Hispanic, but someone in the chat put Asian as well. Like, how come they didn't say Asian? And I noticed that. As well. I was like, black, Hispanic, and white. Those are not the only. They didn't say indigenous. They didn't say Asian. Like, there was only those three to choose from. So that was interesting to me. Um, Another thing was the fact that it takes so long for ambulances to reach a lot of our neighborhoods, that there have been a lot of cases of people like calling an Uber or a Lyft to get them to the hospital. And it was faster and cheaper than to take an ambulance. And so the dispatcher was definitely on my last nerve too. I'm like, why is he asking the same questions when she's already answered them? And I feel as though he couldn't hear her, or maybe, and she couldn't really understand him. And she was saying, like, can you say that again? Like, she couldn't hear. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of dispatchers are maybe they're new or they're not trained well, but a lot of the dispatchers, I feel like they're not as helpful as they could be. And so that was disturbing to me. My last point I will say is the piece about the couple that was from Sierra Leone. So my dad's from Sierra Leone and my mom is Black American. And that whole conversation, I think, around like keeping things quiet and in house, not even just like the Sierra Leone community, but I think West African and African households um everywhere have that mindset about like, well, whatever's going on between them is them, which is something that we definitely have to break out
Keep it
of.
in the house. What black
Yeah.
kid isn't raised like you do not take our business in the street? Everybody knows
Yeah.
that.
Or you
So
don't remember,
yeah.
you don't air dirty laundry.
In public.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's I think that's something that we just carried with us, like Black people everywhere. But drawing a distinction between like not airing out your dirty laundry, but making sure to speak up when it's life or death, which unfortunately in this case was death. But I don't know, as a friend, I'm just really wondering what to do about one of my friends specifically who is dealing with like different levels of abuse. Like, she lives with her child's father. She doesn't have income at the moment. She was a flight attendant. He was a pilot, which they were not supposed to get to be, fraternizing anyway. But know for a fact that he's been physically abusive to her. I've seen evidence of him being physically abusive. She showed up at my apartment before she was became a mom, shown up at my apartment at like 3 o'clock in the morning with no clothes on but like a coat, and like maybe having to like make sure I get her some warm clothes because it's like freezing outside and she's just in a coat and flip-flops with nothing else.
Can you put her in
So
touch with a counselor right away? Because she has to have somebody who's trained like that. I'm sorry, you were talking, Nikki. She's
yeah,
trained. If somebody who's trained in this area needs to be in touch with her so she can talk to her to
yeah,
actually tell her what she needs to hear at this point in time. If she's stuck in
yeah,
this cycle, she needs to be able to get some like comprehensive counseling to get her a
yeah,
safety plan, to get her an exit plan, to tell her how to pack her bag, to get out and go if she had to go. But I'm not an
yeah,
expert. She has to get in touch with an expert like Nikki, somebody so they know what to tell her, like so she can have develop a plan to get herself
yeah.
out into safety.
Yeah, I want to. I've told her
Yeah,
before that she really needs to talk to a counselor and therapist, and I think she's concerned about like costs because she does not have income right now. But I know there are like pro bono or like free counseling services that she can utilize, but I feel like she's just stuck and she won't do it. I feel like if I give her like this is a person, here's their number, it won't cost you anything, just talk to them. I think she'd be open to that, but like I'm concerned about her. Her parents and have actually had conversation. Well, specifically her mother have had conversations about like what's going on with her. And I feel like I don't want to betray her trust, but I also have told her mom in a roundabout way, whatever you think about him, he's doing, because she already senses that something's off with him. Whatever you think he's doing worse.
Miss Erica, is she trying to get away right now?
Right now, I don't think she's trying to get away. I think I've been encouraging her to take like smaller steps. Like her cell phone is not connected to him because I knew that he would be the type of person to cut her cell phone off if she needed to. But I know he breaks her items sometimes. Like he'll break her phone or he'll break her computer or he'll break her iPad, so that she can't, contact people. But he also has two children by his ex-wife, who he's kind of like using her as the mother figure for his other two kids because they like share custody, and so like his older two kids are living with them right now, so she is kind of in the role of like dropping his other kids off at school, things like that. And he's a pilot, so sometimes he's not in the home, so I don't feel like she thinks the need is I don't think she feels like it's pressing right now for her to really make a plan to leave because he's not always there. So there's
What could
that.
she do in that
Her
situation?
leverage, a part of her leverage is, he's not going to keep his job as a pilot if he's dealing with
Right.
domestic violence issues. And,
Yeah,
you know, um, that's her leverage. So
yeah.
she
Well,
He's
needs
that might
also
to.
ex
also be
he's
the
also
problem if she's
ex-military.
relying on his income. And if what state are they in? If she's relying on his income and there's a final restraining order, he might not be able to maintain a license. That's the catch-22 that some people are stuck in if they're
Yeah,
dependent on his income. That's why she has to be able to have a plan, a safety plan, so that she can get out. And someone else commented as well. They need to have their own money, their own finances.
yeah. I've been
Someone has
sending
to get a
her.
plan together, like ASAP.
Yeah, I've been just sending her like remote work that I know she's college educated, and this is the thing that just like when we were talking about earlier, like she is like one of the smartest, like most beautiful women I know. She's college educated. She's just a really good person, really good heart. And we grew up very similarly, like two-parent household. Both of our parents were ministers, like, and we kind of clicked on some of that, like being church kids, but like I don't know like where I don't know like what happened. I don't know.
It's not for us to know, right? I mean, like we just said, there's no logic to this. It could be anybody. Any one of us sitting on this call could be, being abused. And so there can't be any judgment. There can't be like you have to keep the window open that people are able to talk, and we can't understand it. All you can do is be the best friend that you can be, offer the person a refuge, a shoulder. Um, how does it start? Obviously, it starts with bullying, what have you. Um, it's just, I when I was in law school, I was telling Serena, I used to work in the domestic violence clinic when I was a student, and New Jersey has the most ridiculous thing because restraint. First of all, let's be clear that domestic violence isn't always a man and a woman. If you're college roommates and you're fighting, that's considered domestic violence. You and your sister are fighting, that's domestic violence. And I thought that once the cops came, that it was no longer up to you anymore. Once the cops came, my understanding both of you are saying no, so I guess not.
Um,
That
Helen,
because women
Helen,
would.
if I can add some clarification to that. So
Yeah.
when it's if there are sign of injury, right? If there's
Mhm.
sign of injury, then they have to arrest.
Remove somebody, right?
Yes.
Arrest.
So,
Mhm.
however, that doesn't mean that the victim has to be the one to apply for the restraining order. So that's different than the arrest itself. And the victim
Okay.
has to be the one to can drop the restraining order whenever the victim wants.
Here's something else I want to share with you. Some of these abusers they've gotten smarter. So what they know not to leave marks on the victim. They'll punch them without leaving marks. And then the victim will fight back and scratch them. So when the cops come, they see scratches on the abuser, but not on the victim. And they've been hurt, but they don't have the marks. So in the state of New Jersey, if the cop comes and they see the marks on the abuser, they're going to arrest the victim because she scratched him. They don't know who would cause what, who did what. So that's another problem that the abuser, that the victims are facing, because they're getting smarter. They're getting smarter.
Even in this film, did you? I picked up that clearly he's taking her gun from her. And he's in the back of the house, whatever, and he's calling the cops like he's the victim. She's calling, so that was interesting. So, and he just got out the clink, right? So he knows the game, obviously.
Right.
That was just something. It's getting kind of late, so I want to thank you both. But I do want to. I see a message in here. Somebody thought they saw your documentary on the OWN network, and you said no, not yet. But
Not yet, but thank you for speaking it into existence.
Yeah. What
Putting
year
that
does
out.
this happen? What year does this happen
This
with
happened in
China?
2019.
19. So right
2019.
before COVID. Okay. And then right before COVID. Let me see. I'm just trying to scan the chat to see if there were any other questions. If a woman knows about the man's history of violence, she often tells herself that he'll treat her differently, blaming the previous women for the abuse. That's probably real too. Ms. Cox, you used to be a social worker? Are you still a social worker? Did you work in domestic violence at all? I don't know if Ms. Cox is still here. That was her question. But I know that she was or is or was a social worker in New York. Yeah. So anyway, go
There
ahead.
are hotlines. You should Google the hotlines, domestic violence hotline in your area. There are hotlines. That's a question from from you, Miss Higgi. Yeah.
Because somebody was asking, yeah. And it is a vicious cycle. Trying to make sure we aren't missing anything. Miss Robertson, are you still with us? Or is she gone? She was on early. And somebody wanted to know,
here.
oh, okay, your question here is kind of long. Did you want to ask it or no?
You can go ahead, just read the question from the chat in the
So Selena mentioned, did she initially have aspirations? Oh, Selena, this is a question for you. Did you initially have aspirations to do a documentary? And where has this work taken you? Like, what's your next project? Have you done another project since the China film?
No, not that big, not to that extent. But I'm open to another one. I'm open to another one. That one took a load out of me, but yeah, I think I'm ready for the next one. I
And I
can't
know you
find the
said,
question.
yeah, I forgot to tell everybody you're a new mommy. She's a new mommy. She has a
Yeah,
little
I am.
boy.
My baby's
Oh,
5 months.
congratulations.
Yeah, that's my pride and
Wow.
joy. I love him so much.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was more to this question. All right. Where can it
Yeah.
be found? Okay, so you're looking for news. So if somebody has a project, reach out to Selena. Selena, can we share the link for the film? Somebody else wanted to know that.
Where are you located, Miss Michelle?
DC. I did go to the website.
Okay, you voted for your city.
Yes.
We're trying not to do that right now. We're showing it, in person, but I'm gonna talk to my team to see what we can do about that. But DC, okay.
Yeah.
Are you willing to
Unfortunately, I
travel?
lost internet connection, so I missed the end of the documentary. So
Oh no. Are you willing to travel?
yeah, I am.
DM me. I sent you a direct message to contact me on Facebook and we'll talk about it. We'll work something out.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
So
I agree with Nikki.
this is, like I said, we're getting a little long here. So Miss Selena and Serena, Nikki, thank you. You were
Yes,
a
thank you.
special guest. So where are you at, Nikki?
I am I'm not presently in Florida, but I live in Florida,
Okay. Okay. Me too. So we
in the
need to
Miami area. Yeah, I
too.
remember meeting you at the Christmas event with Danielle.
Yes. Who, me or
I was
oh
both of you. I was the one with the
yeah.
little dog, Lily.
yes, I remember.
Time back.
Right, the
Right.
flight attendant. Right,
So we need to hook up. I didn't know
right.
you did therapy too. That's great. Your
Yeah,
contributions were wonderful. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
But I
you.
turned from being a therapist to a coach. So I have my coaching business, which coaching is similar but different in a way because it's about forward movement. Um, what I mean by that is that place that I told you in the development, if you find now that somehow or another what you're experiencing something, we have to go back, target it, and then coach through it so that you can move forward going in the direction that you want to go in. Because it's very easy to get stuck in that place. And it's not about staying stuck. It's still about forward movement, but in a healthy way.
Right.
Miss Nikki, I think I still have your number. I'm gonna text you. I'm
Okay,
gonna
so,
try you there. You
okay.
take insurance?
I'm sorry.
Do you take insurance?
I do.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna text you.
That's another thing I wanted to say to folks on this call. Through your job, you probably have EAP. And that's a service that's available to you as well. So if it's you that needs counseling or somebody in your family or whatever, if they have a job, they probably have EAP services through their insurance at work. So encourage people to look at that. I think the hard thing is to find a Black counselor. And most times we want to be with a Black female, I think probably more than the, so that's the hard part, especially here in Florida. Like finding even a Black physician is like, oh my goodness. And then I think when we find them, because everybody wants one, they're overloaded. So
Right.
that's a problem too. So anyway, somebody said to me, the science is coming out that abuse alone doesn't turn someone into abuser. Becoming an abuser is more of a choice. That's why they are not abusive to everyone and they know how to hide it. The very fact that they know how to hide it lets you know that they know what they're doing is wrong. I am just really surprised that in this case, China didn't allow her boyfriend to intervene and clearly never told her father. So we know, as you know, we know if there's Black men in our lives, they are going to confront somebody who's abusing, a female in our family. And who are we protecting? We're protecting because he said that China said she didn't want to be responsible for, I guess, her children not having a father. And now they have neither parent.
I
So
noticed that that was a theme. She wanted her children to have a father. And even with her mother, like, her mother didn't like him, but there wasn't this direct, like, you just can't be with him. I saw
Right.
him trying to flip the mattress over with you.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sad, but
And you also wonder, how is it that the cops have been at my daughter's house 30 times and I don't know about it?
Hmm.
You're right.
That's
Nobody's telling
true.
them.
With mothers wanting, I've heard that with two of my clients where they want to have their children to have a father, but I had to tell my client, I said, listen, you have to make sure that you're safe. I said, the children can still have a father and you can co-parent with a final restraining order, but she
Yeah.
was still stuck in that cycle. So I think it comes down to getting the counseling for the women, the person who's being abused, to get them out of that cycle so they recognize that they're in the cycle so they can break free of that. But it's a common theme. You're right. They want to have the father figure for their children, but they're skewed in their vision. That's not the right father that they want, an abusive person.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, let's do some closing remarks. I want to thank you both for coming to spend this time with us. Selena, thank you for showing your film in this forum.
Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
thank you for doing
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if anybody else wants to host a gathering with Selena, I'm sure she's happy to come and be a part of your circle and show the film and have a discussion there too. Selena, did you have any closing remarks that you wanted to share?
Not really. It's the end of the day. I'm sort of exhausted, but I just want to let people know, if you want to leave, if you're actually trying to leave, I would say call 211 and ask for information there. Harmony House is a tremendous place to get help. They help you with finances. They help you find a place. So if you really want to leave, definitely consider that. And you have to be safe. Make sure your location is not on if you're leaving. And you know, a lot of us go back. A lot of us go back, but definitely, if you're gonna make that decision, just move forward. Have that tunnel vision because it's probably not gonna get better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
211, call 211 if you need that information, if you need help.
Yeah, there's a note in the chat from Debbie Rang. She says she's known you for many years. She's so proud of you and your accomplishments. We watch you excel and develop into a beautiful young lady. Thank you, Miss
Wow.
Rang.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, cheering each other on, right? Miss Serena, you got any closing words for us?
Let's see.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Serena, I just wanted to know if you had any
Oh.
closing
Oh.
remarks.
I just want to express my condolences to the family. I don't know if anyone's still on this meeting, but my deepest condolences to the family.
Were they on this call, Selena?
I thought the mother wasn't the mother.
I sent her the link. I'm not sure that she was on the call. I didn't see her name.
I heard someone talk, maybe it wasn't the mother. Oh, okay. Well, can you please extend my condolences to the family?
Yes.
I just wanted to reach out, for everyone who was on the call. Thank you for allowing me to be on the call. And I hope that everyone, if you find yourself in a threatening situation, that you don't risk it, that you just trust your gut and get out of the situation. And like you said, Selena said, call 211 to get out and start creating that plan for yourself, your exit plan. And I can send some links in the email just so everyone can see. Also just wanted to let you know that one information I talked about, the Black Indigenous, that's not the only one. I wasn't using that to exclude any other women. That's just one link that I found that has some good information about some of the topics that we're talking about. But again, thank you all, and I hope everyone stays safe.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let
You're
me
welcome.
all spotlights and thank you all for coming on a Friday night. We will not be meeting on Sunday. So you all enjoy the Super Bowl game on Sunday, but
Yeah.
Can
thank
I
you
just
for showing up.
can I just offer a final statement myself?
Oh, sure.
I just want to say to people, there's this expression that I like to use, and just think into it again and again before, just listen and don't give a judgment, see what comes up for you. And that is, when you're in the jar, it's hard to read the label. So where are you as far as the jar is concerned? Be it yourself and seeing people in the situation. So again, when you're in the jar, it's hard to read the label.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
Powerful.
deep.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And that is true. And I think too, the hardest part is that, you know what, ladies, we have to create a space that the women and our people in our lives, whether it's a male or a female child or whatever the case may be, we have to create environments where people can come and tell us what's happening to them and not feel judged. And I think that's a hard part. But you know, that's the first step, that people feel that I can come tell you. And you know, we have a thing in our Black families, especially where we're protecting. We're protecting, like we know Uncle so and so is a pervert or an abuser or whatever, and we are protecting him or her or whatever the case may be. And that can't stop. And if your child comes to you, ladies, and tells you something, don't discredit them. Don't discard what they're saying. You know, you see so many kids that are just ruined because they said, I told my mom. I told my mom when I was 9, it was her husband. I know I dated a guy and his mom was you know, very invested in the church, and her husband had raped her granddaughter, 5 years old, and she didn't leave him. You know, that's hard, you know, so that little girl had to grow up with that. So this whole, as we talk about a cycle of abuse, it starts in so many ways. It starts so early. And, you know, there is no magic bullet as to how we stop it. We just know that it happens. And we have to face it in our community and all other communities. So, on that note, I'm going to say thank you all for coming tonight. When Black women gather, amazing things happen. Letting y'all off the hook tonight. This has been another amazing, yes. This has been another amazing evening, and thank you all so much for gathering with us. And we will gather again on February 16th with Ronna Walker, who will talk to us about wellness. So be safe on Sunday. Stay out of New Orleans, and if you are, wear your mask because they're saying that tuberculosis is on the rise in Kansas, and the person in the White House is not allowing any messages to come out from CDC. So wherever you are, be careful. Yeah.
Is that the same as the EBV virus? There's something
tuberculosis I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. TB, I said TB, but it's tuberculosis. Yeah.
No, they're saying there's another virus out called EBV that Hopkins put out. I just got it last night. Send it to you. I'll send it to the group.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop recording at this